Hey, what's up YouTubers? Lee John Blackmore here at Super Easy Guitar, here for another questions and answers video. So thank you for your emails, all your emails, keep them coming in guys, I'll try and get around to them all. So my name is Lass, my name Lass rather, okay, if I actually read the email properly. Thank you Legion, I guess that's me, Legion. Always love listening to you on your various guitar topics. I have a question. How often do you change your strings and what do you personally prefer? And how often should your students on and offline look at changing their strings? Well, let me have a think. Well, really what necessarily is good for me isn't going to be good for you. People choose different size strings, different thicknesses, different string materials for different reasons. At the moment on my guitar I have these Elixir. Now I'm not sponsored by Elixir or anything like that, okay, so don't go crazy. Actually I don't have these ones. I'm using, these are 12 to 53s and they're nano webs. And these are actually 11s. Now, if I was going to be out playing live a lot, I don't really like the 11s because I like strings a bit thicker, which give me a bit more attack. These 11s I like for just messing around with, or sometimes even 10s. But when you start putting lighter gauge strings on, yeah, they feel softer under the fingers and they're a little bit easier to play. You do lose sustain. You do lose a bit of that richness, okay? So that's just what I'm using at the moment. I chop and change all the time. And I change strings quite often, probably once a month or once every 2 months, depending on how much play I put into the guitar. Obviously I use more than one guitar, so I'm constantly chopping and changing. But they are my preference and they seem to last a bit longer, and they've got this nano web coating, which is like a type of Gore-Tex, which coats the strings. They're kind of dipped, and you can hear they're quite smooth, okay, I don't know if you can hear that. So they're quite soft to the touch. They sound great, and they seem to last longer because of this kind of nano web. They don't oxidize, they don't rust so much, okay, so they seem to be a bit easier to keep clean and stuff like that. And believe me, I've tried a lot of strings, but these are just right for me, okay? It doesn't necessarily mean they'll be right for you. There's tons and tons of brands out there. Speak to other people, see what they're using, speak to the guys that run your local guitar store, okay? And go down to the stores, don't just buy online because you don't know what you're getting. And even I've been caught out by buying cheap strings on eBay and I take them out of the packet and I'm like, these are copies. So be very careful, okay, what you do. For the electric, so I use these regular light, they're 10 to 46. This is from these I use on my SG, and they're Diodarios, okay. And again, I used to use Slinkies a lot, and I actually use Slinkies on my Jackson. I use like gauge 9 Slinkies on my Jackson, but for the SG I just need, you know, the 10s are a little bit thicker. They're kind of, 10s are still really light. I mean, regular light, these are classed as, but they're just, you know, I've used them for years and they suit the tone I want. Again, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you. And again, I got the Diodarios, the EJ46 3Ds, and these are for my nylon guitar, which sound great. You know, I find these don't last that long. That's probably, these are the hard tension ones, and that's just probably because I play quite a lot. But yeah, that's cool, and you know, I buy them in the bigger packs of 3 or whatever. So how often should you change your strings? I mean, well, you can usually tell. I mean, when you first put a new set of strings on the guitar, it gets nice and bright, and a little bit out of tune there. The strings are nice and bright and they sound fresh, they feel really good, there's no crackling, there's no crap on them, you know, so it's great. When they start dulling down, start mucking up, start rusting, start splitting, sometimes you get splits in the strings. I mean, these are pretty close. You can't really see on the camera, even if I brought it really close, but my G string, which I tend to bend a lot, that tends to be the one that goes first, if anything. Rarely do I snap strings, but I can feel it starting to buckle and it's starting to become brittle. Obviously, if you're bending metal constantly, it becomes harder, it becomes more brittle, it's more prone to snap. So if you've had your strings on for 6 months and you play quite often, it's probably a good time to change. Excuse me. If you're gigging 3 or 4 times a week, you might want to do them weekly or fortnightly. I mean, that's what I used to do. To be honest, with the electric guitar, it was every other gig. I used to change strings. I know people that change strings for every gig, but I don't really like that new fresh sound of my electric guitar. It's different with the acoustic. I mean, to be honest, with the acoustic, after a week, the strings kind of settle down and they start to sound good, you know, so that initial brightness comes out. That's how I personally like the strings. Something else you can do when you know, buy a nice set of strings. I mean, the Elixir ones, I find, you know, they work for me, but what I do to keep them nice, I got introduced to this Mr. Duck stuff, okay? It's what we call, it's axe wax and string lube. Kinky, huh? And it's kind of, it keeps your fretboard nice, because you need to keep your fretboard nice and stop it drying out and stuff. So it's literally, I put a few drops on it and wipe it on with a cloth, and if you put too much on, it's, you know, it doesn't feel very nice. It feels greasy under the fingers, but you know, so don't put too much stuff on. And of course you can actually use it on the guitar body itself to give it a clean, and it's much nicer than I see some people using home furniture polish and stuff like that. Don't use that stuff, guys, because it'll turn your fretboard white and stuff, okay? So yeah, those are what I use, and you know, my students, probably once a year they tend to change their strings, depend on how much playing they're actually doing. How, you know, and you have to really do it by ear, guys. It's not like, right, 2 weeks have gone by, I want to change the strings. If that's, you know, if you've got the money to do that and you like the sound of the strings, fresh strings, then by all means go for it. But if they start to look dirty and look black, I mean, these ones here, they're pretty shiny here, but where I've been playing up on the 12th fret, they're starting to go dark. But there's at least another 6 weeks left in these strings. Okay, so I probably had them on for about a week or two, and that's kind of how I gauge it, you know, depending on how much stuff I play. So yeah, I hope that clears a few things up for you guys. And there's no hard rule for everyone, you know. Everyone's guitar is slightly different. Everyone, you know, likes the feel of different strings. Bronze strings are going to give you a different sound to steel strings. Obviously nylon strings are going to give you a different sound again, okay? So hope that helped you out. Any questions you have, please put them in an email and fire them through to me, and I will do a video if I think it's relevant to everyone out there. And thank you very much for your lovely comments and your support, and I'll see you again the same time next week. Take care, guys.